The ocean waves crashed against the cliffs below as Elena Morrison stood frozen before the mirror in their honeymoon suite. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted the silk robe she had purchased weeks ago for this exact moment. Through the bathroom door, she could hear David humming softly while unpacking their bags. They had been together for 3 years, dated carefully and thoughtfully, building what everyone called the perfect relationship. But Elena knew the truth. She had been running from this moment since the day they met. David appeared in the doorway, his dark eyes warm with love and anticipation. He wore simple cotton pajamas, his black hair still damp from the shower. At 38, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had lived through his own share of heartache. His first marriage had ended badly, leaving scars he rarely discussed. Perhaps that was why Elena had felt safe with him in the beginning. He understood pain without needing every detail explained. "Hey," David said softly, noticing how she gripped the edge of the sink. "You look like you might faint. Should I open a window?" Elena forced a smile that felt like cracking glass. "I'm fine. Just tired from the ceremony." David tilted his head, studying her with that architect's eye that noticed every misaligned detail. "Elena, talk to me. Please." The kindness in his voice broke something inside her. Elena had built walls so high and thick that even she sometimes forgot what lived behind them. But standing there in that beautiful room overlooking the Pacific, wearing white silk and carrying the weight of 16 years of silence, she felt those walls begin to crumble. "I can't," she whispered, tears forming hot trails down her cheeks. "David, I want to, but I can't. Something happened to me, and I never told you. I never told anyone." David remained perfectly still. He did not rush forward or crowd her space. Instead, he moved slowly to the bed and sat on its edge, his hands resting calmly on his knees. "Will you sit with me? Just sit. Nothing else needs to happen tonight." Elena looked at him, really looked at him, and saw no judgment in his expression. No frustration or disappointment. Just patient love waiting without demand. She walked over on shaking legs and lowered herself beside him, keeping a careful distance between their bodies. "When I was 16, Elena began, her voice barely audible, I went to a party at my friend Rachel's house. Her parents were out of town. There was a boy there, someone from the senior class. He seemed nice, funny. He offered me a drink." David's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, letting her continue at her own pace. "I woke up in a bedroom I didn't recognize. My clothes were wrong. I felt wrong. I didn't understand what had happened until days later when the rumors started spreading through school." Elena wiped her eyes roughly. "I told my mother I had the flu and stayed home for 2 weeks. When I finally went back, everyone looked at me differently. Some pitied me. Others blamed me. So I learned to hide. I learned to build walls so high that nothing could touch me again." The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Elena waited for David to say something, anything. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you," he said simply. Elena blinked in confusion. "Thank you? For what?" "For trusting me enough to tell me. For letting me know this part of you." David turned slightly toward her but did not reach out. "Elena, I am so sorry that happened to you. I am sorry you carried this alone for so long. And I am sorry that our wedding night is bringing up these memories." Fresh tears spilled down Elena's face. She had expected many reactions but never simple, pure compassion. David stood slowly and walked to the window, giving her space. "I want you to know something, and I need you to remember it forever." He turned to face her, his expression solemn. "I will only go as far as you let me. Do you understand? Your body is yours. Your choices are yours. We are married, yes, but that changes nothing about your right to say no, to say stop, to say not tonight or not yet. I will only go as far as you let me. Elena felt something shift deep inside her chest, like a locked door creaking open for the first time in years. You mean that? With everything I am, David replied. We have our whole lives ahead of us. There is no rush, no timeline we must follow. We move at your pace, always. They spent that first night as husband and wife lying side by side on top of the covers, fully clothed, holding hands in the darkness. Elena listened to the rhythmic crash of waves below and felt David's steady breathing beside her. For the first time since she was 16 years old, she felt something that had been missing. Safety. Not the false safety of walls and distance, but real safety found in honest vulnerability. As sleep finally claimed her, Elena wondered if healing was truly possible. She did not know that the coming months would test them both in ways neither could predict. She did not know that David carried his own secret, one that would soon shatter their fragile new peace. But that night, wrapped in his promise and the sound of the sea, she allowed herself to hope. And sometimes, hope is where healing begins. The morning light filtered through the curtains of their San Francisco apartment as Elena poured coffee into 2 mugs. 3 months had passed since their wedding night in Big Sur, and life had settled into a gentle rhythm. David left early each morning for his architecture firm, and Elena managed marketing campaigns for a tech startup downtown. They had developed their own language of consent, small questions woven into daily life that made Elena feel seen and respected in ways she never imagined possible. Can I hug you from behind while you cook? David would ask. Would you like me to sit close tonight or give you space? Elena would offer. It was working. Slowly, carefully, Elena felt herself opening like a flower that had been closed against winter frost. That Tuesday morning, David seemed distracted. He stirred his coffee absently, staring at his phone with an expression Elena could not read. Everything okay? She asked, sliding into the chair across from him. Yeah, just work stuff, David replied quickly, putting the phone face down on the table. But it was not work stuff. Elena knew her husband well enough now to recognize when he was hiding something. The thought sent a spike of anxiety through her chest. She had been so focused on her own secrets, her own healing, that she had not considered David might be carrying burdens too. The truth revealed itself 2 weeks later in the most unexpected way. Elena came home early from work to find David on the phone in his office, door slightly ajar. His voice carried into the hallway, tense and worried. Nathan, please. I know you are angry, but your mother and I are trying to figure this out. The tuition is due next month, and I am working on getting the money together. Elena froze. Nathan. David had never mentioned anyone named Nathan. She stood in the hallway, heart pounding, as her husband continued. I want to be there for you. I have always wanted to be there. It was not my choice to be absent from your life. Your mother made that decision when she moved to Seattle, and the court agreed with her. A long pause. I love you too, son. We will figure this out. I promise. Son. The word echoed in Elena's mind like a bell. David had a son. A son he had never mentioned in 3 years of dating and 3 months of marriage. Elena backed away slowly, grabbed her purse, and left the apartment before David knew she had been home. She drove aimlessly through the city, eventually finding herself parked near the Golden Gate Bridge, watching tourists take photos and couples walk hand in hand. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with calls from David, but she ignored them. The betrayal felt sharp and cold. How could he have hidden something so enormous? What else had he kept from her? When she finally returned home that evening, David was waiting on the couch, his face pale and drawn. Elena, I heard you leave. I know you heard my phone call. You have a son. Elena's voice was flat, emotionless. You have a 15-year-old son, and you never told me. David stood, hands raised as if approaching a frightened animal. I wanted to tell you so many times. I tried to find the right moment. 3 years, David. We dated for 3 years, and you never found the right moment? I was afraid, David admitted, his voice breaking. My first marriage fell apart because of Nathan. Jessica, his mother, she wanted to move to Seattle for a job opportunity when Nathan was 2 years old. I fought it in court. I lost. She took him across the state, and I became a weekend father when I could afford the flights. Then even that became complicated. Jessica remarried, and her new husband adopted Nathan legally. I was pushed further and further out. Elena sank into a chair, processing this information. So where has he been all this time? With his mother in Seattle. But she called me last month. She and her husband are divorcing, and she cannot afford Nathan's private school anymore. Nathan wants to come live with me, finish high school here in San Francisco. David sat down heavily. I wanted to tell you, but you were dealing with so much. Your therapy, your healing. I did not want to add more weight to your shoulders. The irony was not lost on Elena. She had hidden her trauma for 16 years. David had hidden his son for 3. They were both experts at building walls, at protecting themselves through silence. Before Elena could respond, her phone rang. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. Mom? Is everything okay? Rebecca Torres's voice was weak, frightened. Elena, honey, I am at the hospital. I fell this morning and could not get up. The doctors ran tests. They found something in my lungs. The world tilted sideways. Elena gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. What do you mean they found something? Cancer, baby. Stage 3. They want to start treatment immediately, but the insurance will not cover everything. The out-of-pocket costs are more than I have saved. Elena looked at David, who was watching her with concern. In that moment, she made a choice. They had both kept secrets to protect each other, both carried burdens they thought too heavy to share. But marriage was not about perfection. It was about showing up in the mess and chaos and choosing each other anyway. Mom, I am coming home. David and I will figure this out together. After she hung up, Elena turned to her husband. Your son. Nathan. When is he supposed to move here? David looked surprised by the question. Next month, if we can work out the details. Why? Because we have a guest room that needs to become his bedroom. And because my mother needs expensive medical treatment that I cannot afford alone. Elena stood and walked to David, taking his hands in hers. We both kept secrets because we were afraid. But I am tired of being afraid. Are you? David pulled her into his arms, and for the first time since their wedding night, Elena let herself fully collapse into his embrace. I am so tired of being afraid, he whispered into her hair. They stood there in their small apartment, holding each other as the evening fog rolled in over the city. Neither of them knew what the next months would bring, but they knew they would face it together. No more secrets. No more walls. Just two broken people learning that healing happens not in isolation, but in the messy, complicated space between two hearts choosing to stay open. Nathan arrived 3 weeks later, a tall, quiet teenager with David's dark eyes and a guarded expression that Elena recognized immediately. He was protecting himself, just as she had done for so many years. Just as David had done. They were a family of wounded people learning to trust again. And sometimes, Elena thought as she watched Nathan unpack his bags in his new room, that is exactly the kind of family that knows how to love best. The kitchen had become their gathering place. Every evening, Elena cooked while David helped Nathan with homework at the table, and they talked about everything and nothing. 6 months had passed since Nathan moved in, and the apartment felt fuller, louder, more alive than Elena had ever experienced. Nathan had started school at a public high school in their district, making friends with a boy named Jordan who lived 2 blocks away. Elena's mother, Rebecca, had moved into a small apartment nearby after completing her first round of chemotherapy. The treatment was working, slowly pushing back the cancer, though the financial strain had forced Elena and David to make difficult choices. They sold David's car and shared Elena's older sedan. They canceled subscriptions and memberships. They learned to cook at home instead of ordering takeout. And somehow, in the process of losing things, they gained something more valuable. They gained each other. It was Nathan who first suggested Elena talk to someone professionally. They were eating dinner, a simple pasta dish Elena had learned from her mother, when he said casually, "My friend Jordan's mom sees a therapist. She says it really helps with her anxiety." Elena looked up from her plate, surprised. "Why are you telling me this?" Nathan shrugged, suddenly interested in twirling spaghetti on his fork. "I just thought maybe it could help you too. With the stuff you deal with." David had told Nathan the basics of Elena's past, with her permission. Not the details, but enough for the teenager to understand why certain things made his stepmother uncomfortable. Why she did not like crowded parties. Why she needed advanced notice before anyone touched her. Why some days she seemed to disappear inside herself. "I have thought about it," Elena admitted. "But therapy is expensive, and with your grandmother's medical bills." "There are sliding scale places," Nathan interrupted, pulling out his phone. "Jordan's mom goes to this community health center that charges based on income. Want me to text you the information?" Elena felt tears prick her eyes. This boy, who had every reason to resent her for entering his father's life, was trying to help her heal. "Yes, please. That would be wonderful." Dr. Amanda Foster's office was located in a converted Victorian house in the Haight district. The waiting room smelled like lavender and old books. When Elena first met Amanda, a woman in her mid-40s with kind gray eyes and an easy smile, she felt some of her anxiety ease. "Tell me why you are here," Amanda said simply, no judgment in her voice. And Elena did. She told her everything. The party when she was 16. The boy whose name she never learned. The rumors and shame. The 16 years of walls and silence. Her marriage to David. Nathan's arrival. Her mother's illness. She spoke until her voice went hoarse, and Amanda listened without interruption. "You have been surviving for a long time," Amanda said when Elena finally stopped. "Would you like to try living instead?" The therapy was hard work. Harder than Elena expected. Amanda taught her about trauma responses, about how her body had learned to protect itself through hypervigilance and emotional shutdown. They practiced breathing exercises for panic attacks. They worked through cognitive behavioral techniques to challenge negative thoughts. But most importantly, Amanda helped Elena understand that healing was not linear. There would be good days and bad days, steps forward and steps back. And that was okay. At home, David and Nathan learned alongside her. When Elena had a bad day, triggered by a news story or a smell or nothing at all, they gave her space without making her feel abandoned. When she had a good day, they celebrated small victories like her accepting a spontaneous hug or attending Nathan's school basketball game despite the crowds. Rebecca's health improved slowly. The cancer responded to treatment, and after 8 months, her doctors used the word remission cautiously but hopefully. Elena cried when she got the news, and David held her while Nathan ordered pizza to celebrate. It was during one of these ordinary evenings, pizza boxes on the coffee table and a basketball game playing on television, that Elena realized something profound. She was happy. Not perfectly healed, not without scars or struggles, but genuinely, deeply happy. "I have been thinking about something," Elena said during a commercial break. David muted the television. Nathan looked up from his phone. Rebecca, who had joined them for dinner, set down her water glass. They had all learned that when Elena said she had been thinking about something, it meant something important was coming. "I want to have a baby," Elena said simply. The room fell silent. David's eyes widened. Nathan grinned. Rebecca clasped her hands together with joy. Are you sure? David asked carefully. I mean, I would love that, but only if you are truly ready. Elena nodded. I have been talking with Dr. Amanda about it. I am not perfectly healed. I probably never will be. But I have learned that waiting for perfect means waiting forever. I want to build a family with you, David. With all of you. I want Nathan to have a little brother or sister. I want my mom to be a grandmother. I want to create something new and beautiful from all the broken pieces. Nathan stood up and hugged her tightly. You are going to be an amazing mom. 3 months later, Elena stood in the bathroom of their apartment, hands shaking as she looked at the pregnancy test. 2 pink lines stared back at her, clear and undeniable. She was pregnant. David's reaction when she told him was everything she hoped for. He cried, laughed, picked her up and spun her around before remembering to ask permission. Nathan whooped so loudly the neighbors banged on the wall. Rebecca sobbed happy tears and immediately started knitting tiny blankets. The pregnancy was not easy. Elena's anxiety spiked, and she worked closely with Dr. Amanda throughout. There were nights she panicked about whether she could be a good mother with her history. Mornings she woke up terrified something would go wrong. But there were also moments of pure joy. Feeling the baby kick for the first time. Watching David talk to her growing belly. Seeing Nathan practice holding a baby doll Jordan's mother lent them. When Lily Chan Morrison was born on a rainy Tuesday morning in April, Elena held her daughter and felt something click into place. This tiny human, with David's dark eyes and Elena's nose, represented everything they had fought for. Every therapy session. Every hard conversation. Every moment of choosing vulnerability over safety. Hi, baby girl, Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. Welcome to our messy, beautiful, imperfect family. David stood beside the hospital bed, arm around Nathan, who was crying unashamedly. Rebecca sat in the corner, hands pressed to her mouth in wonder. And Elena looked around at all of them, these people who had taught her that healing was possible, that love was stronger than fear, that broken things could be made whole again. Thank you, she said to David, holding his gaze. For that night in Big Sur. For promising to only go as far as I let you. For keeping that promise every single day. David leaned down and kissed her forehead gently. Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with your heart. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the streets clean. Inside, a new family held each other close, celebrating not the absence of scars, but the courage to keep growing anyway. Elena had spent 16 years building walls to protect her heart. It had taken patience, therapy, family, and love to tear them down. But standing there with her husband, her stepson, her mother, and her newborn daughter, Elena knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would do it all again. Every painful step. Every frightening moment. Every tear and triumph. Because on the other side of those walls was not just survival, but life. Messy, complicated, beautiful life. And that was worth everything. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.